All right, what is up, guys? We're going to try a little something different in this video. We are going to be taking on a box on TryHackMe, one of their advanced exploitation boxes on the offensive pen testing track here. This one is called the Daily Bugle, and it says, compromise a Joomla CMS account via SQLi and practice cracking hashes and escalate your privileges by taking advantage of Yum, which is a repository on Linux. Depending on the distribution, it might be your default. As Kali users, we normally use the Debian packet manager, but I know like Red Hat and stuff, they use Yum. So we'll see later that if you're able to run that as root, then you can actually get privilege escalation that way. So the first thing we're going to do is just approach this like any other box. So we're just going to start off by running auto recon on this URL. And this is a tool that I'm definitely going to use in OSCP just because it basically optimizes your efficiency. You know, it does all the Nmap scans for you. At this point, I think most of us understand how to use Nmap, right? If any of you guys have been going for this stuff for a while, you probably ran Nmap so many different times, and it's easy to forget to run certain things like UDP and things like that. It'll automate it all for you, and it'll tell you as it goes what it finds as well. So yeah, there is a port 80 on this box, so we'll just go ahead and check out what's there while we let it run in the background. And here is the web page here. And of course, they're going to accuse Spider-Man, right? If any of you know of the Daily Bugle, Jonah Jameson, the whole Spider-Man stuff, they're always blaming Spider-Man for all the for everything that goes wrong in the city. So when I first did this box, I actually guessed that it was Spider-Man before I even looked at it. I'm like, you know what? I bet it's Spider-Man. Let me see. And I was actually right, which I thought was kind of funny. Just knowing the pop culture helps out on some of these really CTF-y type of CTFs here. But after that, you know, we're going to reference this so we have a guideline of, you know, where we're supposed to look here. Because after all, this is a guide on completing this this challenge on TryHackMe, right? It wants to know what's the Joomla version. Well, there's actually a pretty cool tool that I happen to already have on my system called JoomScan. And I think I have that in my op directory. So yeah, it's actually a Perl script, but yeah, we can go ahead and test that out here. Yep, it seems to be working. So we're just going to supply it with the URL, and well, let's give it the Joomla version flag so we can check out what version it is, right? And so if we try that, just up arrow this URL, HTTP that, and then Joomla version. And it's going to attempt to detect what version of Joomla is running, and then we can search on that for vulnerabilities, of course. So another thing I'll do while we're waiting on this is let's just go ahead and do our subdirectory brute forcing. Let's stick to the methodology. Let's not forget to do anything critical, right? And so, honestly, I need to automate this part, but we'll do it the manual way for now. Giving it the URL, giving it the word list. We're going to use user share, sec lists, discovery, web content, raft small words dot text, and we'll give it 50 threads. And I think, is that it? I think that might be it. Hopefully I didn't forget anything too critical here. And yeah, we'll let that kind of run. There's an administrator subdirectory, which is what we would expect when dealing with Joomla, by the way. That's the typical setup for things. And this did complete, and we know it's Joomla version 370. So, you know, following along with this, that's what we'd put in there. Now, apparently, this is vulnerable to SQL injection vulnerability, and it said instead of using SQL map, why not use a Python script? Because this is trying to prepare you for OSCP, and it knows that, you know, obviously, I didn't realize I had that open over there. But it's trying to prepare you for OSCP, and it knows that, you know, you can't use SQL map on OSCP. I'm sure a lot of you guys know that and would probably say that in the comments if I didn't mention this. So we're going to use a Python script. Now, we can basically just do a search for Joomla 370 vulnerabilities. We know it's vulnerable to SQL injection because of the description of this challenge, right? But maybe CVE, right? If we look for what the CVE is associated with this, could get a little bit more information here. We just need to basically just poke around a little bit and find. Here we go. I think it might be this CVE here. Basically, we would just look online for exploits, and you got to be a little bit careful with what you're grabbing, right? If you're grabbing from random GitHub repositories, make sure it's nothing that's going to end up with you hacking yourself, right? But in this case, or maybe it's this one. Yeah, I think it's this one right here. Execute code SQL. And basically, we need to find like a exploit, right? And we see a number of them here that we could potentially use, right? And these are different scripts that are going to, you know, different Python scripts and scripts that people made to exploit this and get information. The one I'm going to use that I found was Joomla, I believe. And basically, this is going to allow us to exploit, it's going to automate our exploitation of this SQL injection without using SQL map. And it's going to try to extract the users from the tables and get their hashes, password hash. So we're going to pull this one down. So we'll view it in the raw version. That way we can just wget it onto our machine. So we do that. And now we have it. So if we do Python joomla.py tac h, we'll find the format it expects it in. I think we could also get that from the README markdown file. I do remember seeing it. It's pretty simple. The syntax, it's just, I'm really struggling here. It's just the URL. You just give it the URL, basically. I don't think it's anything more complicated than that. So let's just copy this IP address here. And we're going to go ahead and run this against the server. And probably need to give it HTTP. Cool. Yeah, we just need to supply the protocol there. And now it's going to do its thing and see what we can find from that. So it already identified the table. And so now it's extracting the users and their hashes, whatever hashes it can find. And we see this super user, so that alerts us right there. This is probably going to be pretty lucrative. Username Jonah, and here's a hash right here. Now, I know from experience the $2 means that it is a bcrypt hash, but let's say I didn't know that. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and copy that, and we can pull up a tab. We can say hashcat, example hashes, and I go here a lot. That's why it's purple. But then we can just start searching for this $2. Remember, it begins with $2. And we see this format here, means it's bcrypt. So if we want to use hashcat, we supply it with the code 32,000. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a file, a little notepad file, that has this hash in it. And when you go for hash cracking, my recommendation, don't do it on a VM. It's so slow. because yeah, you're just going to be really limited in your resources, right? Your host machine has likely a lot more resources allocated for it than your VM does. So if you want to speed up the time that it takes, optimize stuff, do this on your host system, not on your VM. So download Hashcat or John or whatever you like to use. Download it on your host machine and just run it. Doesn't matter if your host machine is Windows, Linux, Mac. These tools will work for you. You just need to get it set up on your host machine. So to speed up time, though, I'm not going to actually run this because it does take some time. But I'll show you basically how you do it with Hashcat, right? And whether you're running Hashcat on Windows or Linux, this is the same, right? So, and actually, let me go ahead and just do this on the VM just to demo it, but understand that I would typically use Hashcat here. I can show you the output of what it looks like. Basically, what you need to do is save this hash here into a file called hashes.txt, and then run it against a word list. I was running it against rocku.txt. And then remember that code that we found earlier, 32,000, that's where we put it here with the -m to specify that, hey, this is a bcrypt hash. And you run it like that, and it takes time, and eventually it will complete. In this case, it found the password to be Spider-Man123. Pretty funny that is Jonah Jameson's password. But yeah, I guess I don't need to show you on Linux. It's the exact same thing, literally the same command, right? Because we're just dealing with Hashcat here. I prefer Hashcat over John. If you use John, then, probably shouldn't be too difficult to figure out. It'll just be a little bit different syntax is all. So if we go back to here, we can see that we would put the password in here as Spider-Man123, and now it's pretty much up to us to escalate this into a full-on shell on the system. So let's go ahead and go for that. So the next step is an important step. You want to make sure you're documenting this stuff along the way. So the worst thing in the world is to get creds and not write them down and then forget how you got them and then having to go back and start over and recollect the creds. So we're going to save it into a file here. And now we know we're dealing with Joomla, right? When we found through GoBuster, there was the administrator page. Let's go there. We'll see what's there. So we will give it a second to run. And now we see there is the administrator login panel here. And let's try the credentials that we just picked up. Because it did say it was a super user account, so we should have full privileges on Joomla. And we do. And here's where I'll kind of step you through my methodology initially here. I knew, okay, I have super user access on Joomla. I know I can get a shell based off of a template because, I've done this with WordPress before. I've done it with Joomla before, but it's just been a long time. I know I can do this, but I don't remember exactly where in this application. And I clicked in the templates here and I couldn't find it. So this is what I did. And this is a really cool resource. So if you stick around, if you guys been watching this for 13 minutes, you're about to get some good stuff right here. What you can do is you can actually go to the site made by IPSec called ipsec.rocks. And you can search for any kind of technology that he's worked with in the past. As long as he bookmarked it, you can find the video where he did it, right? So I put Joomla in here, right? And I see success, logged into Joomla. Okay, let me click here and watch the video of after he logged into Joomla, what did he do to get the shell, right? And I don't want to copyright myself here by playing this video, but all I would need to do is click on here. It would open up, this is a really cool idea by IPSec in my opinion. It will open up his YouTube walkthrough of curling at the point that he just logged into Joomla, and you can just kind of watch what he did from there to get the shell. So that's what I did to kind of refresh my memory because it's been quite a while since I actually got a shell off of Joomla access. But basically what you need to do is go into extensions, templates, and the one that's active right now is Protostar. So we're going to click here to go into that. And we could edit the index.php file, but in this case, we're just going to create a new file. And we'll call it shell.php. So after we create that file, all we need to do is upload a PHP shell, pentest monkey script in here in order to get, in order to get it to connect back to our listener. We're just going to actually use the default port 1234 here just to save some time. But we could listen on any port we wanted to, really. So we put this in here, and I'm just going to delete these extra lines here and delete this long comment part out. You don't have to do this, but I just like to clean it up a little bit. And then for the IP address here, we're going to put our attacker's IP so it knows where to connect back to. So in this case, let's see what we're running as. This one right here. And let's see, so we add this in and we save it. Now, the tricky part you might be wondering is like, okay, we have this file on the server, but where is it, right? And if you look into the fine print here, you'll say it'll say in template and then the name of the template. In this case, it's Protostar. So, and if you didn't know that, you could also just watch IPSEC video to see how he got to it. But actually, it is templates, not template. So that's another thing that might be a little bit misleading. But this is just kind of understanding the structure of Joomla, basically here. So do that for shell PHP, and yeah, I guess that message comes up, but it does actually connect to it here. And we can see we are able to run commands as well. So we are currently the Apache user, and we want to obviously get a user account and eventually root on the system, right? So one thing that we can do is run like a linenum.sh or linpeas or something like that. But to save time, I'm going to go to var www.html because this is where oftentimes the files on the web server reside. And one thing that's often lucrative to look for is look into those configuration files to see if perhaps there's some hard-coded credentials there or anything. So if we look at this configuration.php, we actually see quite a bit of juicy information here, if you will. And one thing is this password here. Now it says it belongs to root on MySQL, but I tried to SSH into the root account. I even tried some MySQL stuff with it. I couldn't really get anything working, but just fishing around for some of the users on the system, right? We can look at, say, the etc host file to determine, okay, what is the, or not etc host, sorry. We're going to actually look at the etc password file to see what are the users on the system. And we see this one here, because all these other ones are no login, right? But we see this one is an account you can log into, right? This is a user on the system, J. Jameson. So then that makes me wonder, okay, well, maybe this is his password, right? So what we can do is, I'll do this in another window here. We can test SSH to see if we can SSH into that account. J. Jameson at, what is the IP address of this box? 10, I see it up top, 10.10.113.192. So I end up having to reset things between takes. That's why the IP address is different than it was before, if you guys noticed that. Because what I realized with this script the first time, I was not putting our attacker IP address here. I was putting the target IP address. So I was like, why isn't this working? And I kept resetting the box only to realize, oh, stupid mistake. Even I make these dumb mistakes sometimes, right? So don't get discouraged if you ever make some similar mistake, right? But yeah, once I fixed that, we were able to get the shell. So now we found that those credentials actually do work. And to stay thorough with our methodology, let's just go ahead and, oops, not sure what I did there. But let's just go ahead and add that to our credentials list here. And I did have those credentials from earlier, I thought, but I'm not sure where that is at the moment. Let me quit out of this really quick. Do an ls. And yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, it's in Either way, you should keep track of your creds, if I didn't say that before, just to make sure that you don't get credentials to something and get all excited and dive into it and then have to, come back to it later and then, oh, well, what were the credentials again? And then you have to take a step backwards just to find them, right? It's really annoying. You'll learn if you haven't already. So we'll put those in right there. And just going back to our shell here, let's see where we are currently. We are in his home directory. We can grab the user.txt file there as well and put it in our, put it in for the challenge. But now the next thing it asks for is the root flag. So if we want to actually root this box, what we're going to need to do is, let's start off, methodology, right? Always start off with sudo-l just to see if there's anything you can run with no password as the root account. And there is. You can run yum. So, easiest way, this site is amazing, GTFO bins, right? And then you just type in what you have access to, right? Yum. So we're going to search on yum and see for functions, we have sudo access to yum. So we're going to click here. And then we see, hey, you can elevate your privileges to the root shell if you just run this code here. It's really simple, right? It doesn't get any more simple than this, guys. So just paste it in, enter, and we are now root. We have now rooted the box, right? It's really that easy. That's how awesome GTFO bins are. So if there's anytime you're able to run something as root, you're not sure, can I elevate my privileges to root with this or can I not? Go to GTFO bins, type it in, and yeah, it'll tell you exactly how to do it. So the video was pretty long, I know, but this is more of a walkthrough video, and you can see some of the methodology that I employ with it as well. Hopefully it was, beneficial for you. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you stuck around all the way to this point, be sure to hit the subscribe button. This has got to be one of my longest videos. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because there's a lot of content like this and, really educational content can help you break into this field and learn the skills that you need to learn. Also, smash the like button to help, share the wealth here and help some other people out that might be struggling with some boxes or with their methodology. And yeah, I will see you guys over in those videos. Thanks for watching.